Madia.
Morning, Chief.
Can you rename my gadget? I'm trying to name from my side is not allowing. Just put honorable there, and also on honorable Mukause, remove commissar and put honorable there.
Okay, we'll do, Chief.
Okay. Morning, honorable Mukause.
Chair, you are starting with what is happening here?
I'm saying they must just rename your gadget. I see it's written commissar. I said, no.
Sure, Chair.
Okay.
Chief, we good to start when you're ready. You've got a quorum.
Okay. Yeah, 10 o'clock straight will start. The quorum is there. Good morning, honorable members. I think we should start with our...
Morning, Chair.
Morning, honorable baby. I think we should start with our meeting. In a lot of areas, we have got challenges of load shedding, and I don't want the meeting to be disrupted by load shedding. So we'll try and move as quick as possible so that in areas where load shedding has not started, by the time it starts, we are almost done with our meeting. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all the honorable members coming back from the constituency period where we were dealing with elections. I hope we are all refreshed back to work, even though it was a very difficult period of constituency together with the elections. You are all welcomed, honorable members. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome the DDG. I saw the DDG is part of our meeting from the department, together with the people from USAASA. You are all welcomed to this meeting of the Select Committee. We not gonna waste a lot of time. We'll just go straight into the agenda items. The second agenda item will be apologies, which I'll allow the Secretariat to deal with that. When you see me closing the camera, as long as you have seen me, honorable members, that I'm still okay. It's because I've got load shedding here where I am. So I don't wanna have challenges in terms of the battery of the gadget. I'll be closing the camera, open it when I'm speaking, like that. Secretary.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. We have two apologies from members. The one is from Honorable Modisi and the other one is from Honorable Nyambi. The other apologies that we've received is from the Deputy Minister and the Minister, who are both attending Cabinet this morning, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chairperson.
Recording in progress.
Yes, Honorable Bibi.
I've got an apology from Umam Gwenya. She's also abroad. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We, from the department, I will hand over to the DDG. I saw the DDG is also part of the meeting, so that they can introduce the delegation and start with the presentation. Is there anybody from the department? We can get people from USAASA to introduce their delegation and then start with the presentation if there is nobody from the department. But I saw the in the list here there is a DDG from the department. Maybe the network is also a challenge that side. USAASA, Frick Niemann.
Good morning,
Good
Chair.
morning, Chair. Okay.
No, CEO, you can go.
Okay. Good morning, Chair, and good morning to all the members in the House, and good morning to even my chairperson. Chairperson of the meeting, I think ADG from the department just rejoined again. I know that you had asked her to say something. Maybe let me allow that opportunity, Chair, through you. I don't know.
Yeah, the time is yours. And the department, we have handed over to you.
Okay.
Yeah. A very good morning, Chair. I'd like to apologize. Good morning, Chair. I'd like to apologize. We're under load shedding. I'm hoping I did switch on the alternative platform, but so I'm hoping that you are able and there won't be any interruptions. Chair, firstly, I'd like to pass on an apology from the principals, the minister and the deputy minister attending the cabinet committee this morning. One of the reasons why they are there together is that this is one of the last cabinet meetings for the year. And as you know that with the newly appointments that they've done, they've actually are pushing for a strategy on the turnaround of our entities, and which they've been respectively allocated to both of them, and therefore they will be making presentations to cabinet. Sincere apologies, it's not an intentional for them not to be here this morning. Apologies to yourself as well as to all the honorable members on the platform today. With that, Chair, I'm like to seek guidance from you if perhaps we should proceed with our
You
presentation.
can proceed. Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I would just basically like to put just in terms of a background before my colleagues take us through the presentation. Perhaps maybe I could start off by indicating the colleagues from the department who are joining me this morning. I'm joined by DG Omega Shelembe. He is the DDG responsible for our oversight entities. I'm also joined by Ms. Pari Pillay in the Office of the Director General. We also have Mr. Akona Jonginamba. He is our parliamentary liaison officer in the Office of the Ministry. And we also have Ms. Zayton Anthony, who is also our liaison officer based in Cape Town. Chair, you will also see that on the platform, you also have then the representatives from USAASA led by the CEO, and I will allow at the time then for her to introduce her delegation. So if I may then proceed, Chair. In terms of a background, I think we're all aware that on the 26th of March, the last year, following when the country went under the lockdown, the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies issued a policy directive in how the electronic communication sector will respond to the COVID disaster. And this led, Chair, to the development of program which was structured in terms of action plan for us then to respond to enable that the economy may continue being active during this period. We are happy, Chair, that we were able to collaborate with quite a number of extensive players within our industry who came on board to offer, to assist and collaborate and work together towards then us realizing our desired outcomes from the directives. The clauses in the directions were categorized under the themes and working groups which were set up accordingly. Clause 5, Chair, talked to the dissemination of information. Clause 6 talked to the availability of communications as well as digital services for as long as the period of the disaster management prevails. Clause 7 talks about type approvals, and Clause 8 talks about individual track as well as trace. Again, we needed to curb this area of work. And then Clause 9 talks about the support that we needed to do to the education sector, and Clause 10 talk about the support to the health sector. As you know that one of the priorities for the MTSF has been in terms of e-government, and our department was charged in terms of providing connectivity to the country. So we had to ensure that we had not only to ensure the sustainability, but to accelerate connectivity throughout the country. And lastly, Chair, Clause 11 talked about the roles of the state-owned enterprises. Chair, I'm happy to indicate that since last year, March, we established a program management office, a PMO, in the Office of the Director General in the department, and that was then supported by the many industry players who were assisting us as we're facilitating provision of services as outlined in the policy direction. And this led to the smooth operations of the communications industry, ensuring that essential services were provided during this disaster period. The PMO, as I've been indicated, ran from last year, from the 1st of April. And over the months, the PMO and the industry met over a period of perhaps on a twice bi-monthly, alternatively as and when then emergencies had to come on board. The work of the PMO continues even under lockdown in level 1. We've also been working during the various lockdown, and we've had to introduce various measures as well as interventions to ensure that essential services are provided. And following extensive engagements with industry players, the Monitoring and Evaluation Working Group developed a report on lessons learned and actions plans aimed at addressing the recommendations. And some of the lessons learned included the benefits of regular communications between industry and the department, as well as the establishment of engagement forums. Further, the recommendations were on innovation systems and partnerships and the need for coordination, including a coordinated communications machinery. The greatest success, Chair and honorable members, I'd like to highlight were regular communications and collaborations through these regular communications and collaborations with our industry players. Amongst others include on the dissemination of real-time information, the PMO ensured that there was ongoing TV and radio broadcasting across all official languages, including sign languages on our television platforms. The licensees are connected with GCIS through us as a department to share in terms of public service announcements through these various platforms. And I think you saw quite a regular feedback and engagements, not only from the presidency, but amongst all the other ministers, which we facilitated to ensure that the message is translated to all South Africans. We also assist in terms of the dissemination of COVID-19 related public service announcements as confirmed by the USAASA report. There was also ongoing monitoring of USAASA reports with respect to broadcasting content related to COVID-19. On one of the key areas, honorable members, I think you all have had an impact on was on fake news. And we championed the issues of removal of fake news, and we came up with a framework. And to date, over 2,300 complaints have been received since March 2020 and have been attended to. In July this year, the minister approved the terms of reference for a multi-stakeholder forum to look at the disinformation, misinformation, as well as malinformation. The forum has met and has regular work streams in deliberating with the intent for us to come up with some form of a legislative framework that has been developed by the multi-stakeholder that will then look at how to address the issue of fake news going into the future, and especially as we work in this digital economy. Chair, the third area I'd like to highlight in terms of some of the key achievements relates to access, information infrastructure, as well as digital services. In this regard, 17 sites to be piloted for virtual classrooms, and these are near complete. And I just basically like to thank the following operators who have come to the party in ensuring that we have these virtual classrooms. It's Liquid Telecom, it's RAIN, it's Telkom SA, Liquid and Telecom, they each championed one school, and Telkom has got 4 schools, MTN has launched 5 schools, and Vodacom 6 schools. We really want to appreciate and give thanks to our industry players for coming on board. The model that we take on these virtual schools is something that we think is going to be very critical as we move into a digital society. And the virtual classrooms as well will also ensure, as we also build and expand on our infrastructure connectivity in the country, that we can then be able to translate this and to use other platforms to reach other schools as well. On the connectivity of priority sites, we're happy to report that 307 health facilities have been connected since April 2020. And on zero rating of health and education sites, Chair, I think we've mentioned this before, but we have over 1,126 education as well as health sites that have been zero rated in content. Some of this has not been without some challenges, as South Africans are quite creative in exploring how then they can reach beyond the content for education and health. And unfortunately, we've experienced some abuses of this free Wi-Fi by communities as well as individuals. And the operators are working with the regulators in curbing this. Lastly, Chair, with regards to the role of the South African Post Office, as you know that they have been quite instrumental, effectively supporting the payment of the social grants during this period. 1,084 branch networks already been upgraded to stabilize connectivity as they continue distributing the social grant. The drive is to open up accounts also for the 350 social grant beneficiaries. This continues along with the 4.4 million accounts that have already been opened to date to avoid then the long queues at the cash payment points in the post offices. We continuously encourage all social grant beneficiaries to open up accounts so that they don't have to come physically to the post offices, and to avoid therefore the cross-contamination as well as potential spread. The challenges that we've experienced with regards to network connectivity in our postal networks, we've been addressing those together with telecom as well as other service providers. And equally, as I indicated, we're also trying to address the issues of network upgrade to ensure that the post office becomes a efficient government partner in terms of service delivery. Chair, those are just some of the highlights that I thought it was important for us to highlight, as we will then now take you through the presentation, and I'll therefore ask my colleagues, then they could put up the projected presentation and we can take you through. Thank you.
We are still in your hands, ADG.
Okay. Good morning again, Chairperson, and good morning to all the members in the House, ADG, and the Chairperson of the Board of USAASA. I'd like to pass on apologies for the Chairperson. She is not feeling well, so she is in the meeting, however, is unable to speak. I will start with my presentation. If you can go to slide 2. Just an overview of the impact of the work that USAASA does. Obviously, the work that we do is predominantly the work that requires us to have face-to-face engagements, be present in the various indabas, be present for awareness campaigns with the people. So this, what we've seen with COVID is that it has increased the number of indigent households. As we all know, the impact that it has on people's finances, the loss of jobs. So that has also increased the number of households and the number of people that are dependent on the grant and the subsidy we provide. Disruptions in the education facilities. We also saw that quite a number of educational facilities were closed during that time. We tried in the Eastern Cape to even connect some schools and some hospitals, and which we were successful in doing that in the Bizana area specifically. So the actual rollout was affected because all the work, as I said, that we do is basically on the ground, and it is to bridge the digital divide. Second slide. Next slide, Mary Ann. So the presentation is basically premised on our projects that we're running. Number one being the broadband or the BDM project, which is to roll out a set of boxes that are currently at SAPO and deplete that stock at SAPO to roll out in the 3 priority provinces that we had earmarked. With the 3, we partnered with Centec to do that. So we also saw impact on that work front, because we had to really do make sure that as we're doing work and we are going to people's homes, predominantly elderly, our service providers were well protected from a COVID point of view. And we were also able to then guarantee safety of our beneficiaries from that regard. The second target that the presentation will be focusing on, next slide, it is the broadband, which was predominantly earmarked for Pixley Kaseme in the Northern Cape. What we saw there is that quite a number of schools had closed down, and quite a number of some government facilities had also closed down, which then enabled us as USAASA to have the identified sites, not just the ones that are known as traditional, but we are also able to then connect the entire district in line with SA Connect, and we had earmarked 280 sites. We also had a delayed target, which we've now recently received funding from Treasury or approval to retain those funds. So that target on OR Tambo on 300 sites will then be revisited in the new model that we are currently working on. Next slide. Just on the impact from the 6, we've identified about 6 to 7 areas of huge impact that deals with all of the projects, the BDM and the broadband. The first one being the working environment of the staff, and also ensuring that even the district coordinators that we've employed also are capacitated on that front. So the restrictions with lockdown came, we're not prepared for as the agency. However, that we were able to enable staff to then work remotely. We increase data and communication means and connectivity means for our staff to be able to facilitate the work that needed to be done. We provisioned PPE to the district coordinators and some provincial and all the provincial managers that needed to still be able to do work on the ground. And then on the stakeholder front and the awareness campaigns, we held, together with DCDT in most cases, held virtual engagements instead of the physical ones. We did, though, see that the challenges then will be that the municipalities aren't ready for these kind of virtual engagements, and also the ability to create those awareness campaigns that are of traditional means. So we really had to think outside the box on how we can still communicate with our beneficiaries and our stakeholders and conduct some form of awareness campaigns with the CDT. And as I said, that virtual engagements were held with various municipalities, and we closely monitored any awareness campaign that we were part of, so that we can make sure that we're not part, or our events don't become super spreaders, and we are not part of the problem in increasing the numbers. On the registration of our beneficiaries from the SAPO side, we realized that due to number of branches and the queues, I think ADG has spoken about the number of queues in the branches, it also had an impact in also the closures of various post offices. And we also have seen closing of some SAPO branches due specifically to COVID infections. So each time then a branch will have to be closed, decontaminated, and that will also have an impact on the actual manual registrations for the subsidy and BDM specifically. That is what we've done, and all the stakeholders were immediately informed by the DTT line, and to champion in various platforms. In Free State specifically, we were very active with the councillors on their platforms, and WhatsApp platforms, whatever platform they use, social media, that the platforms that they use, to participate that and still continue the word on the ground about the subsidy that we provide through SAPO. There is a well-known device availability in the market, and fortunately for us in the first phase, we were not impacted. I think the impact was really going to be felt in the second phase, which was to roll out a voucher through 3.2 million households. We've had to reprioritize the budget and the annual plans in line with the previous year because of the disruptions due to COVID. Then the reprioritization and a realignment of the APP had to be considered. Next slide, Mary-Ann. Internal working environment of staff, which I thought it was important to also just talk to. We are really grateful that we have not suffered any fatalities internally as the agency. We have been able to really promote COVID regulation and stick within the COVID regulations. Whenever we do have meetings that require us to be physical, we have a rotation system that is currently working in the agency so that the work does not stop because it is the work also to provide bridge the digital divide. On the stakeholder front, as we said, that we've had very numerous virtual engagements, and the site visits, we continue to have site visits where we limit the number of people who would predominantly be part of those broadband site visits. So we've limited the number of the engagements that are physical, and also the number of people that when we go to each province to verify the sites that we would normally come with. Next slide, Mary, and I think that's it. So this is what basically we had focused on, looking or really anchoring on the two programs that we are running, and also internally as the agency, what controls have we put in to be able to then circumvent the issues around COVID, and also try to adapt to what we know now as our new normal. And that's what we've been able to do, Chairperson. This brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I don't know, ADG, if there is anything to add. If nothing, I will go straight to honorable members to raise up their hands so that we can engage on the presentation. Honorable members. I see Honorable Arnolds. You can start, Honorable Arnolds, so that if other members are raising, they will be raising hands. Honorable Arnolds?
Thank you,
My
Chair.
hand is up, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Bibi as well. And Honorable Nana. Yeah. Honorable Mukause. Yes, in that order, honorable members. Honorable Arnolds? Is it only me who doesn't hear Honorable Arnolds, or is he having connectivity challenges?
Yeah, I think he froze. I think he might be having connectivity challenges.
Okay. Now we can go to Honorable Bibi. Try and
Okay.
assist him to reconnect.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you so much, USAASA, for the presentation, which was very detailed. Chairperson, my first question will be, can USAASA list the number of projects that were meant to be rolled out in this financial year, but due to COVID-19, restrictions and protocol could not be executed. My second question, Chairperson, will be the SA Connect project is not necessarily done by USAASA or USAF, but by hired service provider through tendering. And when in the presentation, you say there had been delays. Were the delays caused by the service provider or by USAASA or by USAF in terms of tendering? And my last question, Honorable Chairperson, will be how much has COVID-19 affected this configuration process? Those are my three questions, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Nana.
Well, thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to honorable members and our guests this morning. Honorable Bibi Chair has touched on a bit on what I wanted to touch on, which is SA Connect. But what really bothers me when it comes to this project is an assertion that it was outsourced to a third party to implement. But then the biggest question is, who should shoulder the blame? Who should take responsibility? Because as Parliament, we did not do the outsourcing. The department or a state agency has done so, and therefore, as Parliament, we should hold the department or that state agency responsible. I'm saying this, Chair, because out of, I think, the 8 pilot sites, one of those is OR Tambo in the Eastern Cape, OR Tambo district in the Eastern Cape. The project has basically granted to a standstill, and I wouldn't accept when USAASA or the department tries to push accountability to a third party. I would really want to know what are the key issues that have led to the stoppage of this project, and what are the plans in place to ensure that it restarts again and those kind of stoppages do not occur again. The second one, Chair, allow me to smuggle something to the DDG, Miss Jordan Jan. It relates to the migration from analog to digital. I've had one of these TV stations fighting bitterly about the migration procedure or the migration process, and it would seem that many South Africans stand a real risk of being cut off, and then they won't have access to television. Now, I want to check with the DDG as to what steps have they taken, because I know it resides in her office. What steps have they taken as the department to ensure that people don't get cut off, and to what extent, if any, have they engaged municipalities to spread the word and encourage people to go get themselves those decoders, if you call them decoders. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nana. Honorable Mkause, Honorable Arnolds, you'll be the last one because you were kicked out before you could make your input.
For the Chairperson, thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I listened to the presentation, but I'm grappling to understand from the side of the entity, the achievements so far on the pilot sites per province. I know in my province there's one in Pixley-Kasima region, but the presentation is not that clear as exactly what happened there. If the projects were outsourced, there were bits of delays, or what is really happening there, Chairperson? I listened to the presentation, but I'm grappling to understand some of the issues relating to the achievements. The sites that the entity is referring to, can they make it clear also per province? I heard about just 2 Eastern Cape and Northern Cape. Maybe if we can get more on that information relating to the sites that are there for the pilot. And then also the service providers that were appointed, I believe it was outsourced, Chairperson. Is there any consequence management regarding that? Because we can't also just accept that, you know, there were pilot projects and then they failed, or there was delays and all of that. And then we're not told if there were consequences relating to the failures or to the delays. Were they also paid in full? And then, or were there any monies that were sort of withheld because somehow the job was not fully done? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Arnolds.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, USAASA has made mention in the presentation on the impact on the internal environment, working environment, and of the staff members. And we all know that there will be an increase in the cost of data when staff members work from home. But we would like to know, Chairperson, in terms of the staff tools of trade, why some of the computer equipment did not meet the requirements of working from home or remotely. Then, Chairperson, I think we need an update also in terms of the high vacancy rate at the executive management level and at the project execution level, and what progress, if any, has been made to turn around the vacancy rate. And Chairperson, we all know that USAASA's record of delivery, even before COVID-19, is not good at all, was not good at all, and is not good at all. Now, in terms of the board's oversight, we know that the board was only appointed on the 28th of February 2021. But just in terms of the oversight responsibility, we would like to know from them in terms of the performance of the lack of performance. And I know there was made mention that the CEO is not feeling well, but we want to know what if there is any progress in terms of also oversight and what those oversight role is doing to get this agency also on the right track. Then, Chairperson, we also would like to know what the status is of USAASA's finance and supply chain employees that were suspended for alleged corruption. And what is the status of these employees and what corrective measures have been implemented? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Arnolds. Acting DG and your team, you can respond. Then if there are follow-up, we'll allow members to do follow-up questions.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I will ask that the CE of USAASA starts and addresses the questions directed to USAASA, and then I will come in from the department to add on and also to address the issues that have been put directly to the department. CE.
Thank you, ATG. Thank you for the questions. I will start with Honorable Arnold's question because they were last on the tools of trade and why didn't we, what have we done or why didn't we have? So in every organization, you will have various staff complements where you'll have your administrators basically based in the office. So they will have a desktop versus a laptop. You'll have managers then that will be the ones that in executive teams that will have laptops. So we had to capacitate those ones that did not have, that would predominantly have desktops, because we could not set up their desktops at home because then they would need a certain different type of connectivity. However, I think all the staff was capacitated. The impact only on the tools of trade was getting the new tools of trade, especially for the district coordinators that we have brought in for the project to be our eyes and ears on the ground. And then with regards to the high vacancy rate, I think what we've been able to do, because of the moratorium, we've had to suffer unfortunate delays in that because of the moratorium, where every vacancy that we have in the agency needs to be approval of minister, despite of its level. So we have been able to capacitate, for example, some certain senior management roles at contractual basis for a year, some a year and 18 months, but that's purely because of what was provisioned for USAASA to morph into a digital fund based there. We've revisited that conversation with the current minister, and I think those conversations are still ongoing. ADG can then talk further on that. With regards to the project rate, how the project is currently faring, the project currently, okay, let me start with the suspended staff. So what we have been able to make some big strides when it comes to the finalization. The members will know that the previous leadership of the organization left in Feb, and there had not been much done to actually fast track the suspensions. But with this current management, just in 6 months, including myself, we've been able to get those, charge them formally, appoint people, chairperson, mediator, initiator, that will then deal with the cases. The staff has already been provided with the charge sheets. So right now, and in the month of November, we'll be lining up certain processes then to finalize the hearings, so that we can then finalize this whole matter of the suspended employees. And then on the project itself, yes, the project have suffered greatly because of the, not just COVID, but some of our service providers that we have put on the program, like SAPO. There's lots of delays or inefficiencies that come with SAPO. We have been able to try and mitigate them together with the service providers. And we're just working with the service providers. We've established steering committees that then are able to then pick up these issues, and we are able to also escalate them to the right level. Some of the issues that happen in our delivery go as far up as board level. Various board committee of the ourselves and the other the entities that we've contracted. That also goes to the level of ADG as well as the department to then step in, because all of the people that we've been working on the projects, sister organizations. So we really rely a lot on the department's efforts to try and mitigate and try and also just alleviate some of the stumbling blocks that we do face in the various projects that we are running. So for example, for Centec, and just in answering, because I think this has been the question throughout, just Centec on the BDM Centec, the delays that that we've suffered, they were both from National Treasury point of view, and also just taking the project on the ground. We've had various issues of just the run rate of installation just being very slow. And we are dealing this with Centec or literally on a weekly basis to try and see what can we do, not just from them. We are not passing on the buck to them to say, we've appointed you, so you fix it. But we are taking on a very direct role of saying that these are the areas that we've identified alongside with you. This is how we think you should be solving these problems. And that's how we've been managing our relationship with Centec, who is delivering BDM and installing across the country, or the 3 provinces that have been earmarked, which are Northern Cape, Free State, and West and Northwest. So that has been the involvement. But I must also admit that the current run rate of the project is nowhere close to what we have originally would have liked it to be. And these stem really from the run rate that Centec has. We've localized the project itself. So we've confined it to localization because we wanted to achieve local beneficiation. And one of the things that we're also, which is a big stumbling block, is that though in the various districts, there are people that are able to install devices and install set-top boxes, the only challenge is that they are not accredited. And in order to form part of the program with Centec, you will have to present yourself. You have to be part of the CSD as per Treasury requirements. You'll have to comply to a text. So we find that most of the small guys on the ground, installers or installation companies on the ground, do not comply simply on the PFMA regulations and Treasury regulations. But what we've been able to do with Centec and agree with Centec is that the companies that Centec has commissioned to do the work, they will commission back or contract the localized installers on the ground to then do the work. So we're doing the work now in parallel with the localized team, plus the ones that do not qualify. We've sucked them into the process that Centec has established. They get verified and they are monitored. So those are the kind of challenges that we've had to meet on the ground when we talk about BDM specifically, and the challenges that are laid up with Centec. One of the challenges has been the installation rate. The installation rate was instructed to us by Treasury, so we could not change the installation rate. For an example, DTT was 250 and DTH was 300 and 400. So with that, we saw that also there's a lack of appetite to then bring in more service providers into the fold to start rolling up and accelerating the work on the ground to install. We did adjust the price in December for DTT specifically, because that's where we had biggest of challenges. And we've bumped up the price from 250 to 370 because there were no accessories that are laid with that. But the DTH one, because the boxes do come with full accessories in a dish, so the price remained the same. So those are the interventions that we've put really on the ground to try and mitigate the slow run rate of installations that we're seeing on the ground. But we are monitoring it. Centec has had to also employ quite a few number of additional people on the ground to monitor the progress that is happening on the ground, and also to bridge the gap between their contractors and the contractors that have been made through localization's effort, localization beneficiation effort. And then on the broadband side, the delays really in OR Tambo had been around the contract time or the contracting that we had with our service provider, who was Telkom. So the delays there were really of a contractual nature. We realized that post-approval from Treasury to deviate and use Telkom only and not go out to the market, we realized that there was a huge misalignment of the master service level agreement we were participating that Telkom had with National Treasury, which was approved by National Treasury. And us stepping away from that, yes, had a huge impact on the work itself in OR Tambo. There were 3 sites, 4 municipalities, King Sabata, Dalingebo, Mhlonhlo, Nyandeni, and OR Tambo, in OR Tambo. So those ones were affected predominantly because of that MSA that we had signed with Treasury and Telkom. But walking away from that, we were also able to save the agency a possible irregularity of 158 million. So though there were delays and they had a huge impact on the work on the ground, but we were also able to come out of that contract soon enough without any irregularities incurred by the agency, and therefore will be any wasteful expenditure. However, so we had requested Treasury to then assist us in retaining those funds. We have now been able to retain the funds. Treasury only came back to us 2 days ago with that. So we'll still, now the project will start because there was a dependency on funds and which Treasury has just approved. So on our Tambo specifically, the project will start. We are working with CETA we were also aligned and got an approval already. So from a stakeholder engagement in the Eastern Cape, we've done a lot of groundwork. We've achieved approval from the government itself to piggyback on some of the contracts that they've been handling, so that it first rolls out the work that needs to happen on the ground. And then with regards to Pixley Kaseme, it was not pilot sites, but we had identified 280 sites in Rennesburg, and one of the local municipalities, which I forgot their name. Trevor, if you can just remind me. But what we've done is that what we've also realized during our identification of sites together with the local municipality and the districts, we've seen that there isn't enough in the Northern Cape, in Pixley Kaseme, enough sites. So that's why we've had then, with a target set, we will then connect the entire community, the entire district, as opposed to just a local municipality. So so that is the work that that has been ongoing in Pixley. The team has been on the ground together with the various local teams and local provincial structures to be able to help us identify those sites and confirm what those sites are. But as I said, that ADG can then talk to the new remodeling of broadband that is going to come, but Pixley Kaseme will still fall part of that. And we have the funding that we have is still within the funding. We had gone out to market. I think one of the honorable members was alluding to that. We had gone out to market, and we had gone through the tender process. Also, ADG can then talk to where we are with regards to that tender process. I think I've been able to cover all of the questions by all of the honorable members, unless there is something I might have missed. Thank you.
Thank you. ADG?
Yes, and thank you very much to the CEO. Just to touch on some of the questions, and we'll add on also on the latter part. Honorable Nana asked with regards to the migration. Firstly, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, I do think that as public servants, we are always held to account, and we always avail ourselves to account. So there is no sneaking of any questions if it is directed to the work that we do. So on the migration, Honorable Nana and Honorable members, we've been going with this program of migration. The registration, I just want to indicate, the registration started in 2012, calling on the indigenous household to come forward, register at the post office in order for them to see if they do qualify to receive a subsidized device from government. We continued with that registration to 2016. We also then recommenced with it in 2018, and we are still driving it now. As much as the projections say there are over 4.5 million TV owning households who possibly are indigenous or would qualify, we've only received 1.3 million registrations. So and our campaign has been that we've gone through various public platforms. So in each post office, we would have the posters as well as the information circulated. We're using our social media platforms to also drive the message. We've also had now even designated aisles or cubicles for the registration. And over and above that, we have been, as a department, doing an outreach program We've worked previously with the Department of Public Works in terms of using the EPWU to assist us in terms of reaching the communities. We also continue to do outreach programs as a department together with our entities. We've been doing door-to-door in all the provinces, even as we speak right now. All our officials are in all the provinces across the country. We've also, as Honorable Nana asked, we've been engaging the municipalities. We've engaged all the municipalities, in fact, all the provinces, let me say, because what we've done is that we've asked for the intro through the provinces. We've requested a meeting with them and asked that they bring in all the municipalities in their respective provinces. And we've done that. And our last engagement, or the last couple of provinces and municipalities that we did Mpumalanga in July, we've done Western Cape in also July, we did Eastern Cape in August. Previously, we've done Free State, Limpopo, Northern Cape, as well as in Mpumalanga in KZN. And we continue to engage them. And because one, with the municipalities, what we first do is to raise awareness. Secondly, to seek partnership and collaboration with them because they are the best, they would know what is on the ground. They would also assist us in identifying where the penetrations are, and also then critical other stakeholders, including your traditional leaders, whom we can engage to assist us with the issues of mobilizing and creating awareness within the communities, because we understand that the medium and the platforms that we've used, which is TV, radio, as well as the post office, may not be sufficient in terms of reaching those. But we continue to look at other means of awareness drive, as we need to ensure that we bring as many people as forward. But we've also observed, honorable members, that the migration issue, what is also tricky is what we call a blended migration. Some of these indigenous households that we are targeting, you would find maybe it's either Christmas or bonus. And clearly the most fascinating thing for a household is that they go out and they get a very affordable commercial satellite TV or satellite decoder. And therefore they are able to watch it from time to time, but we're also aware of the fact that especially during these hardcore economic periods that they were not able, they had to switch off and they've gone back. So we are also on a drive to create awareness to say, for households who either have a smart TV, there are means in terms of tuning that TV, and most of the smart TVs are then globally. We stop the issue of the manufacturing of what we call analog devices. If you either have a particular, so we've got an awareness program in terms of creating awareness. If you've got a television set that you bought and that will have a sticker that says Go TV or to say smart, you are able to then retune that in order for you then to do the normal migration and be able to get the migration. In other instances, you would also require a means of an antenna or some form of, as I said, satellite to do that. But then in other households where you still have the old traditional analog TVs, therefore it means that we have to then provide you with a set-top box as well as then the required area. The team at the department working together with USAASA as well as Centec and other stakeholders, including the broadcasters now, we're continue to raise awareness in all our omni channels, which will be from your radio, television, and social media, as well as physical in terms of your door-to-door, to then create awareness and to enlighten our citizens. So I want to give the assurance that as government, the commitment is that the switch off, the migration of switch off, we have a set target in each respective area. I'm happy to announce that we've actually completely completed the migration in Free State, and we've also had switched off Kimberley, which is also another major metro. We were quite excited about that, and we are moving quite advanced within the migration. But we have a set target in terms of the number of households in a particular community that we need to reach before we can do the switch off. So we do, our teams on the ground, and they do assessment, and it's individual. So it won't be that it's the center who determines if we've reached that target or not. SABC, because of their viewership and they're able to do the projections, they're the ones who give us the go ahead for the switch off, and then we will switch off in those particular sites or areas. We continue, but prior to that, we run what we call a CG, which is a stroller message on your television platforms for the citizens in that area, and also nationally now, where we inform citizens that we're migrating and therefore they need to prepare themselves. We're mindful, honorable members and chairs, that why we run those messages publicly is that the migration, as much as government is subsidizing the needy households, we need to make sure that as a country we do migrate. So the ones who are affordable, we are encouraging them as best as possible to make sure that they go out and they prepare themselves, or they get the necessary set-top box. Alternatively, as I said, if it is a smart television, we give them the steps in terms of what they need to do to follow that. So this is the confirmation to say we do not want to leave anyone behind, because access to television or to broadcasting services, we believe that it should be universal. Those are the principles from us as government, and they serve as a very critical platform to raise public messages as well as to also inform citizens. So it is important that as we migrate, everyone is migrated in the country. The issue I did touch with regards to the engagement with our municipalities, so we continue to do that engagement, as indicated that we have done engagements with them, and after even the introductory engagement that I've facilitated during the period that I've been acting, we've also had our IGR, Intergovernmental Relations team, on the ground to go to each respective municipality to then engage the municipalities further. We've got allocated teams, as I indicated, in the various municipalities. And what we do, because of our migration plan, we actually then targeted. So during this period, in the last 3 months, we've been focusing in terms of extensive engagement with Free State, Northwest and Northern Cape, but we've now migrated because we finished Free State, and now we're moving on to Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and as well as Eastern Cape, and we'll also continue to then engage the other provinces, KZN and Western Cape, to also make sure that we provide then the awareness to the communities. The CE has asked, Chair, I'm not so sure if I'm not taking too much time, but maybe just to quickly touch on the number of other issues that were raised by Honorable, maybe to come on the issue of the pilot that was raised by Honorable Mukosi. The issue, Honorable Member, is that USAASA's target, as you know, according to the ECA, theirs is to focus on issues of underserved areas.
Recording
part of
stopped.
the research that they do. Part of the research
Recording
that they
in
do.
progress.
So the provinces that they've identified, Northern Cape and Eastern Cape, as you would know, is one of the top impoverished provinces, and that's where then the issues of broadband. But then equally, we're also mindful of the fact that other provinces who perhaps have set aside funding are also embarking on broadband projects, which are there being facilitated through CETA, and we're also running a parallel program. We're under the SA Connect, where we're also intended now with this new phased approach to do a national broadband rollout. So we are looking at our model, because instead of doing in terms of segmented by different players, what we are now looking at is to integrate all of the programs and the initiatives of broadband in the country. And then we will have one national task team that is also going to then assist with the broadband rollout. But certainly it remains a priority. So going back to Honorable Nana's challenge with regards to the OR. So OR is also still intended that we would want to address the issues with regards to the unresolved areas and or the unconnected areas, or where then there were challenges with regards to connectivity within this financial period. And then Honorable Arnold's asked, Chair, the issue related to the vacancies in USAASA, as well as the, when are we addressing that? Honorable members, you will recall that last year the department came to present the bills or the reformulation of the portfolio. Amongst that was a proposal to then say that we will disband USAASA and USAF and create a digital development fund. So the intent is still to disband USAASA as an operating entity, but the USAF in terms of the use of the funds that we need to ensure and enable access, but the funding, the new funding model is to also assist the SMMEs because we want to grow them into the economy, to also then for them to become larger SMMEs and then even to the point of multinationals, but to also assist in terms of them getting more business, especially with government as well as the private sector. So the model that we're looking at differs slightly, and I will therefore beg your indulgence to then say at an opportune time, the minister will then be able to come back to this August House to be able to provide you with further details. But the intent is that we would still need to keep what we call the USAF operational in order to ensure that we are able to expand this reach and to broaden the participation of the SMMEs and transforming our sector, but at the same time equally ensuring that these services that are delivered. So even in terms of the timeframes for the disbandment, it still remains as we had intended, that we come to the end of this financial period. We therefore would like to, if all works well in terms of the disbandment, is to then suppress then the operations of USAASA but maintain the USAF, mindful of the fact that there are a number of processes that we would need to follow. But what we also wanted to do was to try and curb the issues with related to the additional funding allocation that will be, if it will be made by the state next year. And that being said, so the vacancies that we have at USAASA, it is not intentional to fill them, but the staff who are at USAASA will also looking at ensuring in terms of job security. So we are looking in terms of the integration of those officials either in the department or in the various entities under the portfolio or within government. Chair, I think those were the questions that were put to the department as well as USAASA. And if perhaps then there are questions that we might have missed, please do kindly indicate and we can come back. And if there are follow-up questions, we stand ready to respond and engage. Thank you.
Honorable members, I already see the hand of Honorable Nana. I think is in terms of follow-up. Honorable Mkause, is this the old hand or is it a follow-up?
Chairperson, I think is the old hand. My apologies.
Okay. Honorable Nana.
Thanks, Chair. Firstly, offline, I saw in this meeting Z Ranto. I was wondering if this is the Ranto I know. So I called her on the side and it was her, the chairperson of USAASA. She's an old friend of mine. Congratulations, Zubiswa, for being appointed chairperson of USAASA. And I hope you get well soon. Chairperson, let me start with the DDG first. I am pleased that they are contemplating also making use of traditional leaders. I think it's an overdue thought. I would advise that the sooner they make contact with houses of traditional leaders in our provinces, the better. Because as she correctly points out, that some people in our households can afford the cheapest package of a digital, television service provider like your DSTV, your basic entry-level package. Some people can afford those, but the same cannot be said about rural areas. And therefore, if you talk rural areas, you talk traditional leaders. So my advice would really be that the sooner they engage with traditional leaders, the better. And secondly, is on the issue of the department having gone the provincial route so as to amplify or maximize their awareness programs. My suggestion, Chair, would be to ask the department to consider in some, if not most cases, a direct route to municipalities. It can be via municipalities, and by so doing, they are assured of reaching municipalities direct, and municipalities will then cascade the issue to ward councillors, and ward councillors will then take them to their respective communities, so as to speed up the process. Because really my worry is for communities that get cut off when the cutoff time arrives. The DDG has mentioned something which I found a bit troubling to me, that they don't make the call as to when to switch off that particular area or that particular province. They rely on the SABC, whom she says has a larger viewership. I mean, I accept that. But what I find troubling, Chairperson, is relying on the SABC. The SABC has got competitors in the broadcasting space. If you rely on the SABC, isn't that giving the SABC an inside lane or an unfair advantage over its competitors? Because Chair, I really do think you can't have the SABC being the ref and the player at the same time. I am not for a minute casting aspersions and doubts on the integrity of the SABC, but the point that I'm trying to drill home is that the SABC has got competitors, and in the world of business, is the world of competition. Is the department not giving the SABC an inside lane by relying only on the public broadcaster to give an indication as to whether that area must be switched off or not? I am raising this, Chair, in the context of a fierce, and with DDG, I'm sure she's aware of this, in the context of an argument or a debate of a point raised by one of SABC's competitors when it came to this thing of switching off and migration from analog to digital. And she's aware, she must be aware of what I'm talking about. Now, turning to USAASA, Chair, I hate to say this. Well, some of my colleagues said the USAASA presentation was detailed. And Honorable Makausa correctly pointed out that it was vague and lacked detail. I think they came to this meeting not sufficiently prepared. If it was not for UDDG coming into, to their rescue, Parliament's time would have been wasted and our time would have been wasted as well. The presentation is vague, extremely thin, short in detail, very short as well. It's probably one of the shortest presentations I've ever had in my career as a member of Parliament since 2009. And I only got a bit of flash when members started to zoom into the presentation and issues started to come out. And for this reason, Chair, I think I want to propose to you, of course, it's your call, as you know. I want to propose to you and the committee that USAASA should be asked to go back and compile a report on 2 items, which will be essay content. Because, for instance, they are arguing that with regards to essay connect, they discovered some misalignment and then this caused problems for the project. And the biggest question that I would ask was no due diligence conducted before the project was even awarded. Because if due diligence was conducted, surely such discrepancies or misalignments could have been picked up. So it really bothers me that USAASA came. It's my assertion, Chair, that USAASA came to this meeting not sufficiently prepared, and I would want to suggest to you that they must go back and come back at the time that you will choose, Chair. They need to come back with a report on all the contracts or contractors that are underperforming. What is worrisome to me, Chair, is that they have also mentioned one of our own state institutions, which is the South African Post Office, as having given them problems. So I would really want us to ask them to go back, bring back a detailed report about which institutions and which contractors, companies have underperformed. And if you deem it fit, Chair, it's your prerogative. You can because you'll have the report before us. You'll receive the report before we. You can invite those affected parties to the meeting. But lastly, I would want to, Chair, to consider moving the time of that meeting to even in the evening, so as to allow the minister or probably the deputy minister to be part of that meeting, because our committee meetings are on Wednesdays, and as we all know, Wednesdays is cabinet meetings. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mkause, are you back?
I'm back. Thank you so much. This time I see that you are exercising a bit of patience on us. You are even giving us chances, even if our hands are not up. Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I didn't want to raise this concern before the presentation was made by the entity of a lack of leadership will when entities are appearing before the select committees for presentation. and lack of political will as well, Chairperson. I agree with the Honorable Nana when he says that we need to look at the time that the cabinet is not sitting. Rather, we have our meetings in the evening. I fully agree, because honestly, there are some of the things that we as members of the council with the constitutional mandate presiding over oversight, we would love also to see members of the executive taking a lead in terms of listening to the concerns that are from constituencies through us. So it's not a good reflection of an entity or of a department to appear before the select committee without the leadership of this particular department, both politically and otherwise. So we need to correct that. We don't want to display a character of this select committee of sending entities away, sending the department away if ministers are not present. We don't want to arrive at that point, Chairperson. So let us be a bit considerate as well as departments when we come to select committees and making presentations. Let us try to speak to our colleagues in higher places to be a part of us, because honestly, we can speak whatever that we want to speak here, but if there's no political will and lack of leadership, there's not going to be any progress or any positive outcomes in whatever that you are doing. I hope I'm making sense, Chairperson. We need the involvement of the executive in whatever that the entities are doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think before they respond, I think we have noted those inputs. I think in as far as the USAASA was concerned, Honorable Nana, we might have confined them by the brief that we have sent them. And I think from the side of committee management and content advisor, we'll look at issues that honorable members have raised, which we'll put to USAASA to prepare a presentation. The other thing that I need also to put honorable members is that you'll remember that the last program that we gave you was a program starting at around 15 hours to 18 hours. I think we'll go and look at that as the management of the committee, so that at least, because our committee is sitting on Wednesday, you always have a challenge that either the minister or both the minister and the deputy are not there. They were able even to phone me. I said, we'll look at what we can do to change the timelines. Even if we have our meeting around 6 is virtual, we can be able to do that. I think from the committee management, we'll be able to look into that. But in as far as the issues raised by honorable members, before you speak, ADG, we will look at them from management side of the committee, as well as look at key issues that you were unable to highlight to the committee, so that we can then come back sometimes as we deal with the APPs and everything, come back with a detailed report that covers all the areas and concerns that honorable members have put forward. ADG.
Thank you, Chair. And once again, thank you to the honorable members for the questions. Chair, sorry, I would like to also come back on the questions by Honorable Nana. So part of the modeling that we've always said, Honorable Nana was concerned about the broadcasters. It's actually all broadcasters, my apologies, all free-to-air broadcasters that we ensure, because those are their customers, that we ensure that we engage with. Honorable members will be aware that when we started this project at the beginning of the year, prior to the President's announcement of the 31 March 2022, the department embarked on an extensive engagement with all broadcasters, the manufacturers, as well as the signal distributor, in coming up with a plan. That is the plan that we presented to Parliament for the year to move towards the time frame. At that meeting, which was held early in February before the State of the Nation address, there were concerns with regards, I think the concerns that were raised by the broadcasters was to ensure that no one should be left behind. And certainly from their perspective, it's both a commercial matter in terms of the higher the number of consumers or customers that they have, the more revenues they will generate, but also equally to then say that they need to make sure in terms of the servicing of the particular sector that they make sure that no one is left behind. The same principle that, as I said, we've always advocated for in the department, which is terms of universal service, universal broadcasting services. So we then agreed. But subsequently thereafter, and I want to also indicate and be very honest and clear that there was concern with regards to the availability of the devices and the period and the speed in terms of how we can move this. And that's why we embarked on then to then say Centec should come in and they should onboard as many installers as possible. And that's why even in our engagements with the municipalities, we actually, and I also forgot to mention this, that we actually asked them to seek to say, give us a database and assist us to get the local installers, which the CE talked about in your area, because what we want to do is to plow back into the municipalities and the communities and the local areas. We do not want to bring in people from outside that particular area to do the installation and whatever else, to ensure the issues of beneficiation. So that's what we engage the municipalities, and we also assist them to say, for those whom they would have on their central database, who perhaps do not have the necessary papers, because, you know, being an informal trader, you may not have everything. The municipality should then assist in terms of ensuring that those would have the necessary papers. The installers would have the necessary papers. We also went further to then say there is a group of installers to which then these installers can be incorporated as part of, again, ensuring that those installers are within that particular community in as far as the highest level would be at a provincial level, again, to ensure the beneficiation to communities. But I want to go back, Chair, with regards to this particular issue, which is quite sensitive because it is before the courts. Subsequently thereafter, when we started off, we did do a couple of ETV sites that were switched off, but ETV altogether, they have 91 sites nationally. Of those sites, I just want to confirm the 91 sites as compared to the overall national sites. Chair is almost close to, sorry, I'm going to get my numbers wrong here a bit. I think it's over 200 sites nationally. But so ETV has got the 91 sites. They only agreed in terms of the site switch off. I think it was in Northern Cape, under the square kilometer array area. And when we were kickstarting the Free State, they also considered, but then there are those other sites in Free State that they have not agreed to. So they are but it's for the broadcaster. So for the ETV analog broadcasting nationwide, by and large, it still remains operational, and it will only be then for ETV to inform Centec as to when then, or to give them the right to then switch off those particular sites. The intent, Chair, is then for us, as we said, we need to migrate the country. And I also want to press on the fact that this was a decision that was reached on in 2006 at an international conference. And there, as a country, we had consulted extensively with all critical stakeholders. And subsequently after, in 2008, some of us who are old and historical in this sector, if you remember that then Minister of Communications, Dr. Ivy Matsepe-Kasaburi, also intended to migrate the country. And again, there was a buy-in by the broadcasters. And as such, since then, we've always established various working groups or committees, such as the Digital Zonga or the Broadcasting Migration Committee, where all the critical stakeholders within the sector have been participating. And again, the view was, and as a country, Chair, South Africa agreed and conceded to the fact that the absolute deadline of migration is then the 17th of June, 2015. And there was no objection by anybody on that. For a country to have indicated otherwise, and I was actively involved in that, in 2012, at the World Radio Conference, you needed then to give that indication if you wanted to look for an extension. As South Africa, we did not, unlike other African countries who asked for a 2020 extension, we did not, and we committed to then say that we would have migrated by 2015. And Chair, so what we're trying to do now is a catch-up. As we sit, honorable members, if I may just indicate the direness of the situation. South Africa has got 6 borders, and all of 6 borders have migrated. At any given point in time, there is a signal disruption, or what we call spillage of our analog signal transmitters into another territory. The ITU will instruct us to switch off all our electronic spectrum in the country. That is the direness of it, until such time that we resolve it within a 30-day period with the neighboring country. We are trying as best as possible to avoid that. And that is why some of our program was then to say, let's prioritize the borders and let's prioritize those areas like the square kilometer array, which is an international territory, to ensure that we've, as best as possible, avoid then an international body instructing the country to switch off its signal. So we are trying to catch up on that 2015 commitment. We're trying as best to ensure that this migration process is seamless, to then avoid then the disruption with our neighboring countries, and to actually and then equally still ensure that there is still universal broadcasting services to our citizens. And that is universal broadcasting, and we mean the intentional of the universal broadcasting to all. And I would not want to, therefore, so we are hoping what the minister established is a steering committee, and the revised plan was engaged on by with all stakeholders, including all the broadcasters. And now we've also included the commercial broadcasters to assist us with the migration. As Honorable Nana indicated, that there are those communities who can afford, but for those communities, especially in the rural and underserved areas, our intent as government is that we will assist them with the subsidized decoders. So the steering committee continues, the minister chairs it, it takes place every 2 weeks, and all the critical stakeholders are participating in there with the intent for us to meet then the commitment made by the president of migrating the country by the 31st of March 2022. Chair, I hope then I've clarified this particular issue, and I hope with your assistance, we will then be able to achieve this target of migration. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done? Is USAASA? Yeah, USAASA.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just wanted to maybe clarify when it comes to the presentation itself. The brief that we received was that we should look at COVID impact to the programs. And the presentation simply talks to the COVID impact and what that has had to the project. And that is why we spoke about where were the touch points, what were the mitigations, and then what are we doing as a response to those and to mitigate the COVID impact. So it was really, really touching simply on in alignment with what the brief said, which was to speak to the COVID impact that it has had on the programs. And on the items that I had requested ADG to come on are simply items that have a change in accordance to the current APP as it stands. That's why ADG talks to the remodeling of BDM and also the remodeling of broadband. So it is not that we did not come prepared, Chair, but it was in alignment with what the brief detailed. And because there have been changes on the APP that I did not feel comfortable talking about, because they are still sitting with the principals, as ADG said. So she wasn't the best fit then to have to disclose and the level of disclosure that required. Thank you, Chair. I think that was the only question for you, USAASA.
No, thank you very much. And I had already responded on it and indicated that we'll call you back with another brief to deal with issues that were raised by honorable members. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, ADG, together with USAASA. Like we have indicated, we will call you back to come and deal with items, SA Connect, and many other issues that were raised by honorable members. We'll give you your invitations and the brief in relation to the inputs that were made by members to come back to the committee to deal with those issues. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank you, ADG, together with the team from USAASA, and also wish well the chairperson of USAASA. We wish you well, and we hope by the time you come, you would have indeed recovered. Thank you very much. You are all released except honorable members.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. Have a good day.
Thank you, Chair. Great day.
Honorable Nana, why are you, it's so dark there? Are you in load shedding as well? You are muted.
Yeah, I'm using this lamp, which I'm trying to get my lighting sorted. It's load shedding all everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. No. Thank you very much, honorable members. I hope everyone has got a program. Next week we'll be looking at the issues of the SABC and the program until the end. We'll also look at the time as well as the availability of the political principals and look at what we can do. If time is not allocated for us in the afternoon, we'll have to go with the time there. But we'll try and look at the allocation of time, because our meetings are happening on Wednesday only. It's also very difficult to get political principles, but we'll go and look at that. The minutes were just circulated while we were busy in a meeting, and we will adopt them next week when we have given members an ample time to go through those minutes. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chair.
Chairperson.
Thank you,
Chair.
Chairperson.
Chair.
Thank you.